Hello, I'm Chris Berger. This is Century Harvest Farms in Greenback, Tennessee.
We don't choose the cattle to fit the program. We fit the program to suit the cattle.
This is 350 acres. We run anywhere from 75 all the way up to twice that, 150 head on this farm, depending on the forage base, depending on the weather, all kinds of different factors. This farm is a mixture of perennial grasses and annual grasses. These animals, they go out to pasture every morning. They graze, 20 or 30 pounds. Midday when the sun gets high and gets hot, they come back to the barn to ruminate, drink water, take some mineral, lay down. So this production system is designed to work just like wildebeests on the Serengeti. Animals graze in the cool of the morning and the cool of the evening, and they spend midday, the heat of the midday, in our loafing shade barn. So that's our shade barn behind me. This is our feed alley. All of our tributary pastures come right off this feed alley, so we can reach any pasture from this alley. So the strategy behind mob grazing, the logic is that these leaves regenerate 4, 5, 6 times faster than basically where they come together at the stem, this regenerative tissue. So if you are putting fertilizer, compost, whatever on these pastures and you are grazing them, if you do not allow them to go past that point, okay, you can get at least 3 or 4 times as much tonnage in an entire year than if you allow them to overgraze. What we have here is a pasture that we're rebuilding. So what we're looking at is this thatch layer of trash from last year's summer annual crop, and this is sort of our secret right there. This is German millet or foxtail millet. Okay, this is a thin-stemmed annual. This produces an enormous amount of biomass per acre. It does not need to be drilled. It can be broadcast as long as you're smart about either stomping it in with your herd or being timely with your precipitation. All this trash from last year's summer annual crop, we allowed this to go to seed late in the season. Okay, and all these seeds have winter dormancy. So they laid on top of the ground, getting rained on, okay, moving towards that topsoil layer. As soon as we disc this is going to erupt in germinating,
summer annuals.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we'll graze those to supplement, to supplement our cool season pastures and get us through that, that summer lull. We occasionally will make hay on a very small portion, usually, less than 20% of, the farm area. But typically we graze every acre we've got, and we purchase local grass hay, and we purchase legume hay as well. So our shade structure allows us, to deposit, roughly 50% of the manure, back onto pasture instead of having it be sequestered in a wood lot or an off-pasture shady area you can't manage. The line item budget for this farm, 150-acre farm, was $40,000 a year for fertilizer. We've cut that by a factor of 10. We spend about $4,000 a year on our composting program that fertilizes the whole farm. We get about 50% of all the manure, from our herd using that tool, that shade structure. And I think we gathered, something like 75, 80 tons this year of manure. That's just manure.
Wow.
So with the bedding, you more than double that. Cattle manure, pretty poor on nitrogen. And so just so that we're not trampling this place to death with trips over the ground with our spreader, we actually purchase poultry litter, okay, from local poultry houses. It's a good bit cheaper than urea, and we get an enormous amount of other soil nutrients that come along with that litter. So we'll basically spread, we'll distribute this over the windrows. We'll add lime, and then we'll turn it, okay? And then at the end of, in the fall of the year, we'll spread it all. We will input as bedding any number of things that basically are discharged from the back of local combines. We would like to purchase every single animal, from, Greenback, from, the surrounding counties. Right now, the production protocol sort of limits us a little bit because most of the local producers are creep feeding with grain. We're trying to get producers involved in grass-fed.
We have around here, this enormous amount of cow-calf production. So basically, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We said, what is the best system that we can use, to finish, medium to small, framed, black and white-faced cattle. We give them each about, 3 pounds a day of high-protein, legume hay. That's an expensive feedstock, but we don't buy much of it. But that gives us the 2 pound a day gain that we need to finish an animal that we buy ideally at about 650 pounds, in 1 year, to bring them to 1,100 or 1,200 pounds. We're in the butchering room of our processing facility. This is a USDA certified cut and wrap facility. We also are TDA inspected. That's on the other side where we do all of our preservation, so pickles, jams, and jellies, preserves. But this is our butchering and curing and value-added processing operation. There are a number of different primary processing or slaughter operations in the area. We saw no reason to duplicate that investment. We saw no reason to invest in a rack system, a rail system to handle whole carcasses. So basically, we can do business with local processors that have already made those investments. They slaughter and quarter the animal, and then we bring the quartered carcass back into this facility, and then we do the processing here. First of all, we do an enormous amount of fresh beef. We do ground beef. We do pre-formed patties that are ready for food service. We also do value-added production where we make sausages, kielbases, meatballs, all those sorts of products. And we also do dry curing. So that's a process whereby through fermentation and management of temperature and humidity, you cure the material through drying. We do business with some food trucks. We do business primarily with distributors, right? So we do very little direct sales. We do business with Gourmet Foods International. We do business with A&B distributors locally, and they essentially purchase all of our products that are ready for both retail and food service. And then they obviously distribute those to the various individual businesses and customers. More processing and adding more value and more convenience to our customers is what has created value for us. This is our TDA certified kitchen space, so we do all of our preserving in here, jams, jellies, preserves. We also have a full service bakery, and this is, we make all of our products here, all of our Century Harvest Farms branded products, but we also rent this facility. This is a shared space, so we have numerous caterers, food trucks, bakers that come in here and make their own brand of products. The biggest challenges that we faced were basically, transitioning to a more and more ambitious concept. We didn't start small. We started big, and we started with a lot of enterprises at the same time. We were farming and processing, distributing, marketing. We were trying to have all of those cogs, working in concert, moving smoothly, and that created a lot of problems, and it's still challenging. But the simple logistics of a small firm trying to do a lot of different tasks is very challenging. And it all has to be managed and delegated, communicated properly, or it simply doesn't work. Our facility and our production methods are not going anywhere. This is how people have been raising food, preparing food, and feeding their communities for thousands of years.